like to share with you today perhaps an obscure passage from Scripture, and that's Joshua chapter 22. Primarily what this chapter deals with is worship. The Israelites, they have moved into the Promised Land. They have completed their conquest of the Promised Land. They have dispossessed the people who live there, and God has fought for them. He's won victories for them, and now they have rest from war, rest from battle, and they have divided up the land, and each tribe has been given their allotment, and they're finishing up this process. Now, there are a portion of the tribes of Israel who have lands east of the Jordan River, and so these tribes east of the Jordan River, they set up their own altar. We read about this in Joshua chapter 22. Now the tribes living west of the Jordan River, this is where the tabernacle would have been set up. This is where the altar for the worship of God would have been set up. And they were not authorized to set up any other altars. And so the tribes living west of the Jordan River hear about what the eastern tribes are doing, and they're upset about this. And so they prepare for battle. They're going to meet these other tribes in battle because this is the command of the Lord all the way back in the book of Leviticus, that if anyone were to set up a separate altar, they should be cut off from their people. And so the eastern tribes are approached about this, and they're questioned on what they're doing, and their explanation of what they've done is really fascinating. They explain to the western portion of the Israelites that they've erected this altar not so they can sacrifice on it, but so that it'll serve as a replica of the altar west of the Jordan River, so that they won't be cut off from the worship of God, so that they will have a legacy of worship amongst themselves, so that it won't be forgotten that they certainly are part of God's people. And so what does all this mean? What does this have to do with you and me? Well, I think it's interesting that you see two things within the Israelites. You see one portion of the Israelites who are zealous for defending the worship of God, because worship defines us. And so worship defined God's people. It was necessary for who they were. It was necessary for their future. And so they were zealous for it. Are you zealous for your own worship of God? Will you worship God at all costs? And then you have the other portion of the Israelites who they wanted to ensure that they had a legacy of worship, that there wouldn't be some future time where, because of where they lived, that they would be cut off from the worship of God. They wanted a legacy of worship. And so the definition of your life is based on what you worship. What does your worship say about you? What does it say about who you are, and what does it say about your family? Consider leaving a legacy of worship in your family. This is what Joshua did. Later in the next couple chapters in the book of Joshua utters his famous phrase, "As for me and my house, we will worship the Lord." And let that be what you declare for your own life and for your family, that you will worship the Lord. Be defined by your worship of God through Jesus Christ. Have a blessed day.